A shout out to Ge.Holla and
Hey, GeHolla, G.Holla.
Ge.Holla, Charlamagne the God here, man.
All y'all said entertainers, shout out my guy Ge.Holla.
Rocking right now with Ge.Holla, Celebrity Life.
Shout out to Ge.Holla reaching 1 million listeners on his podcast.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about, man, this young brother is cool as the other side of the pillow. You know what I'm talking about? A saxophonist, a vocalist. This brother desire is to be a musician and an artist who not only learned the lessons of the legends, but who also inspired. Well, guess what? In his learning of his lessons, he's also a legendary right in his own time and space, and he's inspiring people that he doesn't even know he ain't even met yet. You know what I'm talking about? That's how it works. When greatness study greatness, you become great in that process. You don't even realize it, and you become somebody else's life. This brother was born and raised, I'm talking about in Los Angeles, California, and attending high school in Kansas City. Man, his brother been all over the place and based in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show. All we have are moments. Sir Esquire Marqueal. What's happening? What's your brother? What it do?
Man, that introduction is love, brother. It's great, man. Good to see you. Good to be here. Growing up in LA, man, it really was my first inspiration was my parents, my mother and father. Shout out to them. Because I just really wanted to be around them when I was a kid. I was a little quirky kid. I liked to hang out with the grown folks when I was young. So like my father was really like my first inspiration. And then from there, you know, and really the reason why is because he had a lot of music that he played in the house. You know, I grew up with music in the household. He has a great record collection, and that's what really kind of poured the music into me. But besides that, I have an uncle who plays flute and is a soprano saxophone, is also a martial arts expert. So he was probably influence number two. And like all the other kids back then, man, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, Earth, Wind and Fire, and you know, all the music of the day. And but really, I think the thing that set me off on my path was my pops played a lot of jazz in the crib. So I listened to a lot of stuff like John Coltrane and Miles Davis and artists of that nature when I was growing up. So that's really that. And then, you know, just the environment of Los Angeles in the 70s, man. It was a magical time, probably because I was a kid and didn't have to deal with grown folks issues. But that was what really started me on my way, man. Absolutely. And I think I've been able to hear that thread through all of the music that inspired me growing up and to this day. Like if there's something that feels a little more quote unquote musical or quote unquote jazzy, that always catches my ear. I'm like, okay, who is that? If I've never heard that guy before, who's that artist? Who is this? What's going on here? Oh, I like the way they did that song. Like that's the ear candy for me that really gets me into music. And that goes right back to my upbringing, man. You know, and it's I wouldn't change any of it because it's made me who I am. And but it's really been, you know, a part of my life throughout my life. So some of these people still with us, some of them obviously have passed on, but for me, the list starts with John Coltrane, Miles Davis, all the guys that were in John Coltrane's band. You know, it's too many of those guys to mention, but Herbie Hancock is a big hero of mine. If we're talking about saxophone players specifically, there's Cannonball Adderley, there's Charlie Parker, aka Bird. You know, pretty much Charlie Parker and John Coltrane. The way saxophone players play now, it comes through them. You know, and then we can start talking about more contemporary brothers like Grover Washington Jr., who's a huge influence. David Sanborn, also a huge influence. Rest in peace. Maceo Parker from James Brown's band and people like that, man. That's the kind of music that I grew up listening to. And that's just saxophone players. That's not mentioning Duke Ellington or Louis Armstrong or other artists of that nature, and obviously stretching out from just jazz and start talking about Ray Charles and people like that, man, that have been just a huge influence, man. I'm really just a sum of all of their parts. Dynamics really more than anything else, to be honest, was my father was living vicariously through me. And I grew up in a time, and I'm sure you can attest to it, my brother, where all of the kids, whether they wanted to or not, we took some kind of music lesson. So I have two older sisters. I'm the youngest and the only boy. So they took piano lessons when they were about 5 years old or something. And obviously it didn't stick with either one. But I took drum lessons when I started at 5, which I don't really know why that was, but that's what I started playing. But I really wanted to, whenever I would go to drum lessons, I couldn't wait for the lesson to be over so I could go bang on the piano or go play the vibraphones that were in the same, room that I was getting my lesson done in. And at a certain point, I realized I wanted to play a horn. And it was either going to be trumpet or saxophone, and it wound up being the saxophone. So at this time, I was going to school. I was getting bused to a school in Hollywood because it was back in the busing days. I'm a little bit older than I look, but but they didn't have saxophones at the school. So I wound up playing clarinet in the 3rd grade. I played it for 4 years. And then when I went back to school in my neighborhood, shout out to Henry Clay Junior High School in Los Angeles. That's when I started playing saxophone at 12. But what I started to realize without really knowing was like I could hear stuff on the radio and could be able to recite it right back, like you were just saying, like a parakeet. And I didn't really know where it was, or what it was, but I also knew that if somebody else, like one of my classmates, one of the homies was trying to sing along with something or beat a rhythm out, and if it wasn't right, it would irritate me, man. It was crazy. Someone's like, well, what is that about? Why do I hear this like note for note perfectly and other people don't? And I realized it just meant that I had a good ear. I found out later that I also had perfect pitch. So, and those are things that you're blessed with. And I was obviously blessed with some natural music ability. Clearly, this was what I was put on this earth to do. But that was kind of how it started. So I was doing stuff. Obviously, in school, I was in the bands in school. And then, my father got me a keyboard. I think I was 12 or 13. I had a little small keyboard. And then when we moved to Kansas City, Kansas, just to keep me happy, because I was very upset having to leave LA at 13. That was not cool. But, he got me a nice keyboard. And then I just started to learn how to play songs by ear. Like I could play parts, not proficiently, but like parts here and there and chords here and there from Purple Rain soundtrack. I'm a huge Prince fan. And then it just kept going from there. And I would meet like-minded individuals and we would do like music together, whether it was a hip hop group that I had in high school or, when I went to college, I was in a bar band and was in the jazz ensemble. So it was just, music was just coming from everywhere. And I was starting to really get into different artists and different styles and different sounds. And it just all kind of poured into me. And that's pretty much how it's gone and really how it's still going, to this day. It's the same thing. That's a good question. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stand on it. I'm gonna stand 10 toes down on that. Yeah, I am. Because what I have found over the years, especially after I started getting a little more proficient musically, that the musical organizations, the bands that I were in or that I would enter into, whether it was short term or long term, very quickly I'll become one of the most important members in the band, if not the most important member in the band. And I just think it's because of the way I see music, the way I hear music, and how I want to put it out there in the world, especially performing. I still think as a recording artist, I got more to learn, a lot of lessons to learn there. I'm proud of my records, very proud of my current album, but I haven't been a recording artist as long as I've been a musician and a performing artist. So on stage performing, that's my sacred ground. That's my safe space. That's where I feel good doing what I do. That's where I feel like I'm my best version of myself. So the music comes through that. And if I want to be great, then I want the band to be great, and I will do whatever. You know, let's practice this, let's do that, let's get some things together, and let's present this in a way that we have people feel not only enjoy what we do, but they feel it and they go home with a good emotional exchange with us. You know, so yeah, I guess in that sense, I am a catalyst for sure. Yes, yes, indeed. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing there, brother. I love it. And for those of you who are checking this out, so Catalyst is the name of my first album, and Intention and Purpose is the name of the second one. So yeah, and the time in between those two records was an interesting time. I put out my first album. I've been touring with Brian Culbertson, great smooth jazz artist, one of the best in the business, current day. And I've been touring him for about 5 years. But I really wanted to get my own voice, my own sound out, and see how I would do, you know, in that genre and in that market. So that was what the first record was about. And I entitled it Catalyst because I really wanted that record to change everything. I wanted it to be the change agent for my career, for my life, for the people I would meet, for the people that will be attracted to what I do, and vice versa. So it was clearly that. But the time in between, and there was a pretty big gap in between these two records, it was a little more reflective, and I was trying to be a little more tactical about it. You know, you start learning a little bit more about the business, or you say, okay, well, this record worked in this area, but it didn't work in that area. How do we make it work better? So I was very, very intentional about the music I wanted to do. And, you know, I wanted it to have a feeling of a purpose, you know, an end result to what I was trying to accomplish. So I probably thought more on the second album than clearly I did on the first one, you know. So it was me really just trying to be very, very like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it this way, and I want to do it that way, and let's see what we can do. So I was able to get some radio play and some airplay, some successful singles as a result of that. But you know, it did help me learn how to record better and how to be better in the studio and how to orchestrate things better. You know, it was all really kind of a learning process, and it was really because I was trying to be very intentional about what I was doing. Yeah. And that journey was interesting because coming out of or while Intention and Purpose was released and it was doing well and things were starting to look like they was really going to pop off for your boy. Like stuff was set up. I had a great performance at the Capitol Jazz Super Cruise, a cruise that I had done for years as like a side band or in one of the house bands, but I was actually an artist. Sold all my CDs. Everything was great. It was looking good, 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 good. And then the pandemic. So everything just shut all the way down. Didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, you know, culturally speaking, there were so many things that were happening with our people at that time. It was just so much going on. And I had the desire, I really wanted to put out a record on my birthday in 2020, which would have been my 50th, which was my 50th birthday. And, you know, that time came and went because it was just, there was really no emotion, no desire, I was just trying to survive. We all were, and we didn't really know what was going to happen next. And trying to create in that environment for me was very challenging. I know for a lot of artists, it was like, you know, it was the perfect opportunity for them to get down and get the pen together or get the horn together or get the music right. But for me, I emotionally just was not, I was just expending enough emotion just to live. So it was hard for me to really tap in musically. So it took a long time to get the third record done. All we have are moments. And the thing that I kept thinking about was like, that's really all we got. Like, you can plan all this stuff. You can talk about all the things you want to do, but it's right now, like this interview right now, at this moment, this is what I have. I want to give my all to it. I don't want to look back on anything and think, well, I thought too much about this, or I didn't put enough emotion into this. Like, I want to be all in right there in the moment and giving exactly everything, just tapping everything out of me, just really tapping in and focusing on giving my most to that moment. And, all of my life experiences, have really led to all of that, because I have moved around a lot, living in 3 different cities, and, being married and divorced and then getting remarried, and, all these little turns. And what I've just discovered about myself is that I'm very adaptable. I'm a chameleon. I can make these things happen in these different environments and do the stuff that I need to do. But the only way that it comes off as authentic, or it feels good to me, is if I am all in on that moment when it's happening. So, this current record that I have has been out for a few years. It's the one I'm the most proud of. It's the one I feel the most personally attached to. And it's, even if it's a happy song or if it's a serious song or whatever it is, my emotions are there and I feel it even when I'm listening to it, so if I feel it when I'm listening to it, I know you guys feel it. And that was really what the goal was. And once again, before I get into that, man, thank you, Mr. Holla G. I appreciate you for having me on the platform, man. And it's always good to talk music with a brother that is supporting the music and doing things in a big way. So thank you so much. As far as everybody else that's tapping in, first and foremost, my website is Marqueal Jordan. That's MarQueal. And Jordan is Jordan. It's marquealjordan.com. You can also use that handle to find me on Instagram, on Threads, and on Facebook. My page is Marqueal Jordan Music. I do have a personal page, but it's full. Just go to my music page and you'll find out everything that's happening. As far as where to get the music, if you would really like to support and get a physical copy of my latest record and Intention and Purpose, you can go directly to my website. I'm selling them there. I'm the only one distributing it. You can't find it anywhere else. So if you want it, you either got to come to a show where I'm selling them hand in hand, or you can get them from the website. Otherwise, if you are of the streaming community, which most everybody is, I'm available at all the digital outlets. So you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, everywhere that you can stream your music. It's there, and it's out there for you. It's also music there that I've collaborated with certain artists with. Did a lot of collaborations in 2024 with a few artists and some horn arrangements and some features. So just put my name in and all the magic will come up. And hopefully the magic tickles that thing right here. We'll see what happens. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Try to keep it that way too, man. I stay moisturized for sure. What's going on, y'all? This is Marqueal Jordan, and I am on My Celebrity Life with Ge.Holla.